What's going on, everybody? This is Fry. So today, after there were literally hundreds of your card ideas posted in the comment section of my last video, I read through as many as I could. I got a lot of inspiration from a lot of different places, and I'm happy to present to you 6 finalized cards that I would like to formally suggest that be added to the game. I worked really hard on these, both in terms of the abilities and making sure that they are balanced. So let's just hop right in here. This is going to be starting with Engineer, which is one of my favorite monkeys in BTD6. So Engineer is going to be a 3-cost, 20 damage. It'll have the same, basically stats of Dart Monkey that only costs 1. This will be doing 20 damage, 1 shot, 1 reload, but its ability is going to be start of turn, create a sentry gun in hand, and you can see right here, this is the sentry gun. This will be a token card. I don't want this to be a card that you can include in your deck. The only way to obtain sentry guns is going to be through Engineer. Now, in the comment section of the last video, I did see a lot of people trying to make Engineer be a card that creates monkeys. Like, it'll create, let's say, either in a different monkey slot above or below it, it'll make like the sentry gun, and sentry gun will act as a monkey that can be manually, target balloons every single turn. I really want to stay away from that idea with Engineer for a number of reasons. First of all, Engineer is not going to be very compatible with other monkeys or even with another Engineer if it's filling up your monkey slots that much. Like, even if you have like an Engineer, it's going to very quickly fill up sentry guns, the other monkeys. Like, even let's say you have a second Engineer in your hand, you can't ever play 2 Engineers in the same game. There's just not going to be any value in the second one, because the first one's going to fill up a slot, and then you play the second one, they're going to fill up the remaining 2 slots. That's 5, and it's just not going to be doing anything. I really think the option for Engineer, the sentry gun that it's making, needs to be a power card. Simple, 1 gold, it does 30 damage that turn, and this is going to be, Engineer is a card that will be creating cards in your hand, these power cards in your hand every single turn. So Engineer would sort of be a card draw card. I also played around with the idea of there being like sub-monkeys, like the Engineer, like around him he'll have turrets and it really won't count as a whole monkey, one of the 5 monkey slots. I really don't think that that is a great idea too. It's just going to make the game way too complicated, both visually and also technically. You're going to have to be, keeping track of how many turrets it has, and that's going to be affecting the amount of damage that it does. It doesn't really make sense that much for me. Also, the reason why I don't want Engineer making other monkeys is because as the game goes by, like, yeah, you could take bigger monkeys, more expensive ones, and start covering the sentry guns. I just feel like the Engineer runs out of value. This way, it's a 3-cost, it's just absorbing 1 monkey slot, nothing complicated, and it's just going to be giving you this extra sentry gun card every single turn. Now, this is a 3-cost card that does 50 potential damage every single turn, which is a ton for a 3-cost card, but the difference is you're going to have to be spending that 1 gold every single time you play your sentry gun. So it's a powerful card that is sort of absorbing and, draining your resources as you're getting that big value. Otherwise, it's a very underpowered card at 3 cost, doing only 20 damage per turn. The other thing that this can create is discard mechanics. Like, if you know about games like Legends of Runeterra, the PvZ class has a lot of cards that make you, when you play it, you got to discard a card from your hand. Or if you discard cards, the cards become more powerful. In future sets, the Engineer card, besides for having its own value, can end up being the engine or one of the engines of discard synergy decks. Since it's gaining all these free sentry guns, instead of playing these and spending your gold on them, they can just be the cards that you're discarding in order to sort of create that genre of deck, which I think is a very fun thing that they could potentially add to Bloons Card Storm in future sets. The other thing I would also like, just as a last point, is keywords, just to sort of simplify the text on cards. Start of turn seems like a very good keyword that can work with a lot of different monkeys and balloons. And then also the word create would be a keyword, and both of these keywords, if you would hover over the text, put your mouse, let's say while you're playing, either or long press if you're playing on mobile, then it will sort of explain start of turn means the start of your turn, not the start of every single person's turn. Just the way I like, there's going to be even more keywords I'm going to suggest just to sort of simplify the text of the cards, that you're not reading, 3 or 4 lines of text. It'll definitely make it easier for beginner players, and also just visually be a lot better. The thing I could see Engineer also, and I'm not counting this as an entire card I'm suggesting, but I could see the upgraded version of Engineer being something like Sentry Expert, that this would be creating, instead of the regular gun turret, the sentry gun in your hand every turn, this would be creating some kind of specialized sentry, kind of like in BTD6, where the different types of turrets that Sentry Expert creates are based on what your needs are. So you could have something, a crushing turret, boom turret, cold energy. It could be creating one of those in your hand at random. So it also, again, would be one of these discard mechanic cards, but also those cards would have special abilities, power cards also, but they're not just going to be doing damage. They're going to do something to the balloons that they affect. I haven't really worked on creating what the crushing turret and the boom turret and the cold energy actually do, what those abilities are. I feel like I have to see more of the game and see really what are the threats that kind of need an answer, and then those we would basically then make the crushing boom cold and energy be sort of the answer to those cards. So I'm really just going to leave that part of it for later, after I actually see more of the cards that are going to be coming out both in the pre-alpha and when the game is actually released. All right, moving along to the next card is Bloon Trap. Speaking of other Engineer upgrades. So this is a card that I really liked also in BTD6. And this is a 5 cost, it's a power, and it's destroy a random enemy balloon and gain 2 gold. And I really, really like how this ability with Bloon Trap not only fits the lore, it really fits very well with what Bloon Trap did in BTD6, how it's sort of like a trap. It's on the board, it's not targeting anything, it's just basically eating the first, balloon that comes into it. And it also then, once it traps it, it gives you gold. So it fits both in terms of what Bloon Trap is in BTD6, but also it really fits in a card game. The play style of this card, I'll tell you what's with Bloon Trap. Bloon Trap is going to be, since you're netting, you're paying 5 and you're getting back 2. So what's the point? Why not make this card cost 3? I have a really good explanation for that. It fits really well. The way Bloon Trap of destroying a random balloon would be overpowered is if you could spend a lot of your gold already that turn destroying every little red balloon, every little, 30, 40 health balloon on their side of the field, and then you're just left with that one big BFB that has, 500 health, and this is going to just be doing 500 damage then. You want to prevent people from doing that too easily by making them have to still have 5 gold in order to play Bloon Trap. But you again don't want it to be too expensive, so that's why you're gaining the 2 gold back, because at the end of the day, if you just play this onto a random board with a bunch of balloons, this is just gonna, do an average of 60, 70 damage, something like that. So again, if you're spending all your money on popping the small balloons, you won't have the 5 left. So if you either have a ton of gold, you're able to do that play of popping everything small, and that's fine. And then this will be a very efficient card. Otherwise, you're sort of just going to be playing this for 3 costs and just throwing it out there and not getting the full value out of the card. So it really does work, again, doubly in terms of the lore and how it would fit into the play style of a card game. Going to move on to the next balloon, and this is Camo. Now, the devs have talked a lot in the dev diaries how they've been trying to make Camo balloons work in this game. I think the idea they had was to make to make Camo balloons only be able to be targeted by Defender. Remember, Defender's like the tax shooter, where some of the monkeys are going to have abilities when balloons are coming in during the attack phase that then they're going to be able to target them. And they really didn't like that for very good reason, because then you have to run Defenders in your deck, or else there's no way to deal with Camo. I really want to take Camo and make it exactly the opposite, that you're able to target Camo manually with your monkeys during your turn, and these are going to be cards that target Defender. I got this idea from Void LV on Twitch during the Twitch stream. So let me explain exactly what the purpose of this card is going to be. What's the point of having a balloon that doesn't get hit by Defenders? Defenders, again, are going to be very good against, pink balloons are coming in, or quick ready. It seems like there are going to be a significant amount of defenders in the game. That's just the impression that the devs have given so far, not just the tack shooter. The point of the yellow camo balloon will be able to play as a finisher in the game precisely while the opponent's monkeys are reloading. Like, obviously, they'll have some smaller monkeys that only have a reload of 1, but while they have the big ones, during that sort of off turn, then you can spam the yellow camo balloon. And that's why I think it's really important for it to have only a 1 delay before it attacks, so you're able to really sneak it in there and take advantage of the reloading ones, and then you have the defenders on the board who are kind of just waiting for an attack, and those aren't going to be able to defend against the camo balloons either. I went with like yellow camo balloon, giving this similar stats to the yellow balloon, which has 145 health. I made this cost 1 more and only have 125 health, while it's going to have the ability Camo. Camo I'd like to be just a keyword. So what this card would say, it wouldn't have Defender, it wouldn't have any of the parentheses there. It would literally just be Camo. And if you hover over Camo, the text in the parentheses is what then would appear on the screen, that a Defender ability cannot target this card. So I really think it's also important for this card to cost exactly 4 and to also have the 3 copies, because just like in BTD 6, the 1 camo balloon, is not going to be a huge problem unless you have absolutely nothing to deal with it. The problem is you have a bunch of camo balloons. And they're going to be working together, and you're only going to be able to pop some of them, and the rest of them are going to be leaking and doing damage to your face. So having a few of these, and when it comes to a card game, having a few of these to play, like you have 8 golds or even 12 gold, and you're just playing like bam, 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 yellow, 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 and all of the opponent's monkeys are reloading, that's sort of how you're going to be able to use this as a finisher. If you play 8 gold, again, this is going to be doing 250 damage, which will really finish off opponents. It really will be able to add this strong mechanic of, again, taking advantage of reloading monkeys on the other side. So we're going to move on to the next idea here, which is Glaive Ricochet. So this original sort of idea I got from Halloween Nowie on Twitch. So Glaive Ricochet would be bounced to. This sort of would end up being an upgraded card from the Boomerang, just like in BTD 6. So what the keyword bounce, and this I think is a really smart way to sort of set up how these cards work, is just make a keyword called bounce. Bounce means every single time it bounces, the damage is going to be cut in half and then being applied to the next balloon in the sequence after the one that you targeted. What Boomerang would then say, instead of 25 damage and 15 to the next one, Boomerang would just say bounce 1, and then Glaive Ricochet doing 60 damage would be bounce 2. The user on Twitch, Astros, came up with the idea of bounce of, instead of making a set amount of damage like Boomerang does 25 to the first one and 15 to the next one, instead of there being that set amount of damage, make it a percentage, make it half. And what you could do at that point in the game is let monkey buffs, if you're adding power to your monkeys, let's say Gwen's passive that adds a little bit of extra power to your monkeys, you can actually have it affect the secondary damage as well. The problem with the way Boomerang is sort of set up is that if you add 5 damage to the base damage, and then now the on attack is doing 20, or if you had, it just scales too quickly. But if you make it a percentage of a clear half, then if you're at the amount that you're scaling the base damage, the secondary damage is only going to be scaled half as much. And when it comes to bounce 2, in the case of Ricochet, so it's going to do 60 damage to the first one, 30 to the second one, and then to the third one it's going to be 15. It halves every time. So then if you add, let's say, 10 damage to the to Glaive Ricochet, so now it's going to do 70, and now instead of 30 it's going to do 35. It's only half amount, and then the other one would be half of that, 18 and a half. Or 17 and a half. So whether you round up, round down, it doesn't matter. The devs can decide that. I think this would be first of all, very fun card, like, Ricochet, like it's bounce, bounce, bounce. They could make this visually very appealing in terms of how the bounces work, especially, again, with the Glaive Ricochet, the 3 bounce. But also, I think there is something fun about finding ways to buff your AoE damage and for to affect the second abilities as well without them scaling too much. And this really does sort of solve that thing by making bounce at a set amount of damage, make it exactly half across the board, and then you can apply this to as many different monkeys in the game as you want. Now, I know probably a lot of you are thinking, so Glaive Ricochet would be a 6-cost card that is doing base damage, is going to be doing 60 and 30 and 15, which is a total of 105, and it's going to be attacking every single turn. So when you compare that, let's say, to Super Monkey is only doing an average of 75 per turn, it seems like this for a 6-cost card is really doing a lot. The real card you need to compare this to, though, is Triple Shot. Triple Shot does an insane amount of damage maximum for its cost, 3 cost, and it's doing 60 per turn. But the reason is because it's spread across 3 Bloons. In order to get that full 60 damage, you need there to be 3 Bloons on the board. Otherwise, 2 Bloons is cut down to 40, and if there's 1 Bloon on the board, it's 20 damage, which is absolutely useless. And Glaive Ricochet is definitely going to be sort of suffering from that same problem, is that it can only get the full 105 damage when there's 3 Bloons on the board. If there's only 1 Bloon on the board, it's a 6 cost doing 60 damage. Maybe this can be nerfed down to 50 damage if this is really too much, but like it's really going to end up, again, Triple Shot's doing 60 to 3. This one's doing 105 to 3. It costs twice as much. It's not even doing the full 120, like twice as much damage as Triple Shot. So it could be that this would really, end up being balanced because it needs to be seeing several Bloons in order to get that full damage. Even if, like, the first Bloon, they have 3 Bloons in a row, and the first Bloon only has 30 health, so that's going to be 30 damage just off of the base of Glaive Ricochet. So it's just going to be losing 30 damage, just right there. All right, let's move on to the next card over here, which is Banana Storm. Here's a card I made up. And this is going to be, I like the idea there's going to be storm cards in the game. We already saw like Firestorm and Red Bloon Storm and Storm of Arrows. It's Bloons Card Storm. I want there to be a lot of different types of storms. Banana Storm could be okay, so here's Banana Storm. 0 cost and both players gain 4 gold. So it's almost like a cash drop that is doubly as good, but also has a huge penalty that your opponent is gaining the 4 gold. So this is not going to really be a ramp card. Since it's giving you 4 gold, you can spend, your opponent's going to have 4 gold also the next turn. This really won't be that effective as an early game ramping up to something, unless you have something really good to ramp to, like, a Banana Farm, like some economy card, something that's, going to be really, really good to develop, and you don't think your opponent will be able to spend the gold as efficiently. What I really see Banana Storm being is a finisher card. Like, you need 4 more gold in order to do a huge combo. You have a couple quick readies in your hand, you have just some combos, like a big OTK, like a 1-turn kill, and you need some extra gold to do it, so you can actually play Banana Storm and then play those cards in succession. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, then your opponent has the 4 gold, like you do the next turn. You're also down a card since you played Banana Storm, and that will give your opponent then an advantage. I could also see, again, the Storm cards being a tribe in this game, and maybe you can have even some of the late game wizard, like magic user cards, and one of their abilities can be each turn create a random storm card in hand, or just whenever this attacks, it automatically plays a random storm. We also got the idea from a lot of people of Glue Storm, which would be an expensive power that will basically add 1 delay to every single Bloon on the board, so that could also end up being one of the cards in the Storm tribe. All right, we'll move on to the next card here. Just like Firestorm would be one of the cards again in the Storm tribe, like we've seen already. And we're going to move on to the last card, and this is one I really, really liked. This was more or less based on the card that Rocket Guy did suggest in the YouTube comments of the last video. The idea of Wizard Monkey is that it feels like it just has a bag of tricks that every single time it's attacking, it's like casting a different spell. Let me try to break it down for you. So, Ammo 3, so this is a card that anyway has 3 ammo. It's shooting 3 times per turn. Ammo 3 means when that says 3. So its first shot is going to be large caliber. When Ammo 2, so meaning when the second shot, is going to give burn 10, and then the last shot, when you only have 1 ammo, it's going to be bounce 1. So let me go through these one at a time and explain. Large caliber is going to be exactly the ability of sharpshooter. I'm just sort of taking that term again from BTD6. It means that the shot basically does double damage and penetrates through more layers of the balloons. So that will be the first shot of Wizard will be doing double damage. They'll be doing, instead of 20, it'll go up to 40. This is a nice keyword we could apply. Sharpshooter would literally just say ammo 3 large caliber. It would literally say the exact same thing, which means the first shot gets double damage. The second, I also really want to add on to large caliber how, unlike bounce, this would scale way too quickly. Like if you'd add 20 damage to Wizard, all of a sudden large caliber is doing 40, 80 damage. So you definitely have to make the, again, flavored the text when you click on your large caliber, when you hover over it, that it's not affected by increased power. And it's really nice to have that text sort of not on the card because it makes it too stuffy. You rather want that to be in the text when you hover over the keywords. That would just be a really good place to do it so the cards don't get too cluttered. I like having just simple text, easy to read. And if you have any questions, you go into the keywords after. So ammo 2 is going to be burn 10. This is going to be very similar to the ability of Gwen, the active ability that does. Gwen has burn 30, does 30 damage every turn. This would be a sort of mini version of Gwen, that it's going to be doing 10 damage per turn. Now, the burn keyword, I feel like really very badly needs to be reworded. After testing it in the beta, the time that burn affects the balloon that is on fire is before it attacks, or like sort of before when it goes from a 2 tick to a 1 tick, or a 1 tick to a 0 tick during that time. So the burn keyword would have to, instead of just, on Gwen's ability, it just said, it takes 30 damage per turn. So I think it really would be important to explain exactly which part of the turn that happens. So you're going to, it would just say, it would either, the text could be of burn would be target balloon receives damage before it delay ticks. I know that's a weird terminology that I'm just making up, but when it ticks down, as opposed to if you play quick ready, it's not going to take burn damage. That's why I'm not saying whenever the delay is reduced, but when it delay ticks or when it attacks, those would be the times it's taking the burn damage. Something that could just simplify burn and Gwen in general would be the idea of just making burn happen at the beginning of the owner of the balloon's turn. It would change the way it works. Right now, if Gwen burns a balloon and it has, let's say, 30 health, it's not going to pop instantly. The opponent, the owner of the balloon, will get a chance to maybe add some stats to that balloon in order that it won't pop completely. So this really would be a little bit of a buff to burn if you made it happen at the start of their turn, which wouldn't give them an opportunity to play cards, that would affect the burned balloon during their turn if it had 30 or less health. But I think just as a quality of life change, since the fact the burn happens after your turn, right before the balloons attack or when they tick down, it's just a little confusing, and I could definitely see quality of life again. Burn would just do the damage right at the beginning of the owner of the burned balloon's turn. It just kind of makes sense and would be so much easier for beginner players to sort of just pick up on exactly when it's going to happen. I know I was very confused at first with the burn. I didn't understand exactly which part of the turn it was happening. Is it happening on both players' turns? So just the beginning of that owner's turn, I think, could be a rework for burn, which would make it a little better. The cool thing about Wizard is that this could end up, because of the burn ability, it could end up being a staple in Gwen decks. I have here highlighted on the screen the third ability, the ultimate ability of Gwen, which says that any balloon that's on fire that has that burn attribute is going to take 200 damage when Gwen actually spends, the big 20 Bloontonium and does this ability. So Wizard really would heavily synergize with Gwen. I don't think it would be too overpowered since, again, he has a 2 delay. So he's really going to be able to add burn to 1 balloon every 2 turns. I don't think that's going to be too overpowered. I do think that this could end up being a really nice little synergy to make a burn synergy, a burn deck. I think that's very balanced. In terms of how much damage now, the Wizard Garg is doing, Wizard Garg, the Wizard Monkey is doing. Let me explain the third ability, which is just going to be, you probably already know, Ammo 1 is going to be Bounce 1. So it's going to do 20 damage to the first, to the targeted Bloon, and then 10 to the after, since bounce, of course, is the same as Glaive Ricochet. Every time it bounces, it halves, and it's applied to the next Bloon. So let's add up the damage that the wizard is doing. So large calibers first is doing 40, and then the burn 10 will count that as 30, so it's doing 70, and then bounce 1, it's basically doing another 30. So it's doing like 100 damage every time you attack on a 2 reload. So it's basically doing 50 damage for a 5 cost card, maybe a little bit more if you can either add a, attack to it and get the bounce going up a little bit, or if the burn is applied, over the course of a few turns, it'll end up doing a little more. I think this is very good, balanced at 5. I like also starting monkeys not to really be, except for Super Monkey, maybe not to cost more than 5. So I think this is actually really sort of good in terms of the actual amount of damage that it's doing, and would have a really, really fun and good place in the game. Anyway, guys, those are the 6 suggestions I have for cards, along with a lot of other keywords and, mechanics and things I could really think that will improve the quality of life of players just trying to read the cards and really understand what they do. I will officially submit these to the Ninja Kiwi Discord after I publish this to YouTube, so you can always publish, if you have card ideas, you can always publish them there. If not, if you have any other ideas, or you think that any of these cards are not balanced or should have a different ability, of course, let me know in the comment section below. I will be reading again the comment section of this one to see if there are any more great ideas that come out of it, and who knows, maybe I'll make another video here if I see anything inspiring. Anyway, guys, if you want to keep up with the Bloons Card Storm news, especially when this public beta with the deck building is going to come out, make sure to subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Peace, this is Fry.